think we are ready to get started. Doors are closed. So, folks, we're going to get started. Thank you very much for coming by. My name is Puga Sankara. I'm the principal with Smart Gladiator LoadProof. So I got, obviously, right? I mean, I'm not going to call my baby ugly, our product. So I got, a nice friend of ours, Mr. Ross Chesaniuk, head of operations with Kering Beauté. He's going to talk. So ask any questions you want. I'm just going to any product related questions I'll be happy to answer, but you really want to hear from them. They implement it and it's like it opens up as if it's a movie. That's the challenge that they worked through and solved it. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm a principal founder with Smart Gladiator. I architected and created LoadProof in partnership with Kenco. We had a similar software and we kind of took that to the next level, made it a software as a service. My experience, I cut my teeth in supply chain when I was with Manhattan Associates, spent a lot of time there. And then I also did my MBA at Georgia Tech, so 25 plus years in supply chain, a lot of WMS implementations, a lot of warehouse performance, throughput analysis, all kinds of things. So I'm going to pass it to Ross here. Yeah, Ross, thank you very much for doing this.
No problem, my pleasure. All right, so Ross Chesaniuk, thanks for the intro, Puga. He said I could say whatever I want. That's a risky proposition. So I started my career in the military. That's me when I was 12. Been in retail supply chain for about 12 years now. Home Depot was my first corporate role in corporate supply chain, PMO kind of strategy role, implementing mechanization. Jumped into warehouse operations, so that's where I first was exposed to LoadProof. We were doing retail consolidation at a small 3PL out of New Jersey called Fusion Transport. Was just talking about Walmart implementing the SQEP, Supplier Quality Excellence Program, I think. And so we had our customer base, massive potential chargeback exposure during that implementation. So we implemented LoadProof's base application where we were taking pictures of every load and we're able to help our customers fight chargebacks there. From there I went over to L'Oreal, had a fun time in manufacturing during COVID, and most recently jumped over to a company called Kering. If you've heard of Gucci, you've heard of Kering. And click. Or not. Yeah. Yep. So that's the wrong one. Out of order. Great. Other than Kering's looking. All right. But if you heard of Gucci, you heard of Kering. So Kering owns Gucci, like Saint Laurent, a bunch of luxury apparel brands that you've probably heard of. About 2 years ago, they decided that they were going to stand up a beauty division. So right now in luxury and really apparel, most companies are not doing their own beauty, they're outsourcing to the L'Oreals of the world, and they're finding now it's cheaper, it's easier to merchandise, to insource beauty. Kering did it with eyewear in the early 2000s, so we're really diversifying the group through acquisition and bringing in those licenses. So Kering bought a fragrance brand called Creed. Creed is one of the larger high-end men's fragrance brands. So I brought a little friend of mine. This is our newest launch. $610 for 100 ml if you're interested. You can come up here and smell it after, but it's my personal favorite. This is the best smelling I've ever been in my career, which is a major perk. But the problem with that is it's a very popular brand. Like any popular brand, people want to steal it, especially in challenging economic times. So we all deal with this ugly monster. And I'm not talking about the Lord of the Rings for my fellow nerds there. If you want to talk about that, you're at the wrong conference. So there was one issue when I was interviewing to come over to Kering that they wanted us to handle, and that was concealed shortage chargebacks. So this is the average outbound pack of Creed. So we ship about 70% of our revenue to department stores. Mostly like Neiman Marcus, Saks, Bloomingdales, Macy's, Dillard's. We have about 10 of our own boutiques. We have our own e-commerce site, but about 70% of it is going to our retail partners. Two retailers in particular, they're saying, well, you shipped us 72 cartons, we got all 72 of them, but here's a 20% chargeback. Now, when we're talking about the average shipper has about 27.2 of these cartons in here, they retail almost $500 a pop. So your cartons retail is ranging between $10,000 and $15,000. Your pallet of 40, you can do the math. So we actually had a shipment in like February 2024 with $400,000 of concealed shortage chargebacks on one trailer off of one purchase order between two brands, which I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, you kind of understand the problem and the magnitude of this. It's killing our revenue, it's killing our margin. Retailers are screaming. We're under Ex-Works terms, so it's a complete complete customer collect freight network. And it's in that gray area of the collect network where they're saying, the cartons are perfect, your warehouse is just short shipping us, hold your warehouse accountable. So there would be just accounts receivable screaming at me saying, what's going on? Somebody's stealing somewhere, do something about it. We didn't have any conversations with the retailers, we didn't have any contacts, and we needed a way to kind of get their attention to start a conversation. And kind of most importantly to the powers that be, we either need to hold the 3PL accountable or we need to get these retailers to the negotiating table and then protect the brand. Because if it doesn't make it to the retailer, we're getting hit twice, right? We lose the revenue, we lose the product, and then we're cannibalizing our own sales when it ends up on the black market. The black boxes, those are our number one seller, Aventus. The Aventus line represents a quarter of our business. So we have to stop the black market, and that's a super high priority. All right. So I mentioned when I was with Fusion 5 years ago, I had conversations and a very simple implementation with some quick wins with LoadProof. So we had this idea where the only way our goal was never to catch thieves. We knew that there were thieves somewhere. Some bad actor had to be doing something that we didn't want them to do. We knew that we couldn't start there. We had to prove that either the 3PL was doing something wrong or that something was happening outside of our building. So we developed this idea of perfect video chain of custody. So if we could say, you have a box and you can watch, we can show you everything in this box, you can count the units. If I was to figure out one way that I could prove definitively that we shipped in full, I'm gonna show you every single unit. So I'm gonna show you every single unit, I'm gonna show you the box getting sealed. We're gonna have some kind of tamper evidence, something, to seal that, and then we're gonna monitor it until it gets out the door, until your bill of lading is being sent. So we just, I have a team of, at the time, 3 people. How are we gonna do this? I don't have a dev agency, so reach out to Puga's team, and we started putting something together and actually went from requirements to production in 3 months. So, there we go. So the requirements. So we started out, and I would say we've been with the same 3PL partner for 29 years. And they were skeptical of anything that was one, of course, they were skeptical of adding labor, adding time. You're gonna pay, you're gonna pay for every second of our time that that this adds, kind of mentality. Initially, they didn't really want to play ball until we brought them into the conversation with LoadProof, and Puga's team really was focused on the end user. So the first requirement that we shared is we have to get these guys on board, and we sold that to them by saying we're designing with the user in mind, and two, we also, right, we're also protecting your reputation here, because in fragrance, at this level of fragrance, the buyers all know what's going on. They know there's us and there's another major brand owned by LVMH in the same building having the same problem, and they talk, they know, the supply chain and loss prevention people, they discuss this type of thing. So we started there, brought them into the conversation. We told LoadProof team, this is the data that we want to pull. We want to capture videos. That's what we need to figure out how to do. We need to see cartons getting sealed under a camera, and we want to somehow tie it to what we're shipping so that we can actually use this to fight a chargeback. We need to be able to get this stuff out of the system pretty easily, respond to chargebacks very quickly, and we need to be able to get this information, this massive amount of video, to a retailer without destroying them with gigabytes of information. So that's kind of where we started, and my Bluetooth stuff. So not my favorite picture. And how we got there is we had our 3PL, we got them starting to come to the table, and these guys put together, they had an existing label that they were using for pick and pack, so they came up with the idea to add a QR code, and we were able to get all of the metadata we wanted onto that QR code, onto that label, so that we could transfer it to LoadProof. And the system, the process that we ended up designing is so that they're picking straight into this box, and when we're ready to seal the carton, the 3PL is scanning that QR code and initiating the video, and you get all of this data up in the cloud. So in this way, we're kind of continuously flowing video up, and we're getting it pretty much in real time. To deploy it, we were grateful enough to have a resource directly from LoadProof on site, did our UAT, got it going very quickly, and honestly, we started having conversations and demoing this technology with retailers the next week. So I'll pause there. All right, this is actually, so this is the portal, this is the live site.
I think the internet might be not
Yeah,
sure.
I'm seeing it here. Where are we? Ah, okay. So this is a live purchase order. Oh. And so you can search by anything. I can pull a purchase order. I think this PO had something like 50 cartons on it, and click a video, so I can pause it. I can zoom if I need to. We had the system carton count added in here, so we can see the theoretical number of units that the system's saying should be there, and we're getting that sealed. So a really simple concept, but it's the speed to value that we were able to get with LoadProof that really made it happen for us. All right. So what actually ended up happening. So this is kind of the cool part. So we spent a couple months. We spent a couple months building this. Spent a couple weeks implementing it, getting it stable. In parallel, doing our publicity tour with the retailers. We actually started to have real substantive conversations where loss prevention professionals from Bloomingdales, Nordstrom, Neiman's were reaching out to me and initiating conversations to see what was going on, to see what we had going. Within about a month of our conversation, I won't say who, but the two retailers we were having challenges with reached out. They wanted to do a DC visit with their 3PL, which is generally normal, but they also were bringing us in for the first time with state police. I had reached out and I mentioned, we're Kering. Our number one arch nemesis is LVMH. So we reached out to my LVMH counterpart, we brought them into the conversation, and then there were two other luxury groups that we were able to kind of, through old-fashioned detective work, figure out we're getting hit by this as well, that we brought into the conversation. So we got all of these people into the room, which I believe that would have never happened. There would have never been a conversation that would have been anything beyond adversarial without LoadProof. But we got all of these people in the room, and we started actually making a plan to set traps and to try and catch the bad actors. Within 3 months, before we did actually catch any bad actors, we received our first offer for settlement for chargebacks that was in the high six-figure amount. We rejected it. We're like, no, our warehouse is actually, I have to say, like, I was shocked at the level of accuracy that I was getting from my warehouse. It did wonders for my level of trust, having operated a 3PL in the past myself. Like, it did wonders for my trust in them and my relationship with them on my side. But we initiated this task force, and with some other technology that we implemented as well, we're able to actually track and figure out where our product was being taken after it left our warehouse and deduce roughly what was happening. So what happened, what was actually happening was a driver would come in and they would do a pickup for the two brands, and they would go, they'd go off site somewhere on their way to their third-party terminal, maybe for 20 minutes, which was the shocking piece, and they would gut our cartons. They were ripping them open from the side seam of the shipper and pulling as many units of whatever they could find out as possible in the shortest period of time possible. And we were able to see the UCC labels between the period that they left our DC on our video and the time they reached the LTL terminal. They were being inverted, they were being tampered with. So the police were able to narrow down to a couple, it's not a couple, maybe like 20 drivers. And they weren't able to make any arrests. But they were able to get enough on the guys where the carrier was able to terminate the bad actors and get them out of the supply chain. So that was about, that had to be about 14 months ago. Back in September, and I'm getting a little off topic here, but back in September, I get a call from our FedEx rep, and he's stating that a trailer went missing. They don't have very much more information. We do a little bit of investigation. We look on the camera, and there was, when a FedEx driver went to pick up a drop trailer after hours, a van pulled up in front of his trailer, or his truck, and held up the guy and hijacked his trailer. And he took about $500,000 worth of our product. This was kind of the mistake that we hope that doesn't happen, but from an investigatory perspective, this is the type of mistake that leads to arrests. So the driver was okay, and it did lead to the arrest of 4 people who we were able to link to the original theft ring. And everybody lived happily ever after, but no, we've been at around 99.95% accurate ever since. The value, I'll kind of bring it back to the value of LoadProof. So about 2 months ago, to kind of juxtapose the initial conversations of blame with retail partners to about 2 months ago, I got a phone call for a chargeback of about $100,000. And it was very different. It was more along the lines of, hey, can you send me a file with the links to the video for this purchase order number? We really needed whatever documentation you have so that we can file a claim with our carrier. Completely different than circa 2023, where I'm not getting anywhere with these guys. I can't even get a contact in their transportation department to change the routing. So to kind of bring it back, right? LoadProof did not actually prevent chargebacks for me back in 2023, or even now, and I'm sorry, Puga. What it did do is it changed the conversation, right? We now approach this problem from a position of authority. We know what's happening in our supply chain, because at least this small portion of our supply chain, because we have almost complete information up until the moment that the project gates out of my warehouse. We've been able to increase our claim recovery rate when we're shipping prepaid as well, not working with FedEx, UPS, other carriers as well. So it's really been like for an initial investment to have an ROI in like the low 7 figures, it's an easy sell to any finance professional I've ever worked with. And it's not over, because if you walk down the hall, I don't think you'll make it 20 feet without somebody trying to approach you to speak about AI agents. So it's not over. We haven't started to leverage some of the more recent innovations out there. So we have explored. These videos are in the cloud. They're there. We have 4 months of archive footage that we can research whenever we need it. We can pull it down and archive it in perpetuity if we need to. But we have started research to have an agent skim our videos every evening when they're uploaded, and we're already passing the number of units that each cart should have to LoadProof. So, well, if we have clear, consistent video, it is not theoretically that difficult to actually conduct a visual, machine learning based audit of what you're actually shipping. So the idea here would be, now you can set up a configuration where you're getting alerts of possible short shipments before the freight even leaves your warehouse, and you can send a clerk out. You can send somebody making $15 an hour out to the floor of a warehouse, and they can spot a charge, they can eliminate a chargeback for you before it even leaves. We're also looking at applications in retail operations as well. So I mentioned boutiques. Like I said, there's theft in every aspect of our supply chain. So when we have a shortage in boutiques, specifically where we own the entire supply chain, gate to gate, we're looking at having our clerks have a dedicated device as they receive, just to document images of what they get. So it's there if we need it. And then lastly, Also looking at some consolidation opportunities. So turning our USDC into a central hub for other markets outside of the US. So when you're dealing with Customs and Border Patrol, I mean, the US, from a customs clearance perspective, we're one of the easiest customs agencies to deal with in Americas. When we set up CFS later this year, we're going to want perfect documentation to ensure that whatever disputes may arise, that we can show, like, when this pallet gated into our CFS, it left in perfect condition, it was not altered in any way whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know what else I could say. It's been a real great experience over the last 2-3 years on this project specifically. Great custom solution that we were able to build with Puga and his team. Just open up to you guys for questions.
So you show video of the product being packaged, but I would assume there's other cameras in the facilities that it's tracking that package all the way into the truck, right? So that nothing happens between that packaging area and the trailer.
Yes, so we implemented, so we found that 3PL's cameras weren't high res enough, and we were looking for something that was super quick to implement. So we installed a couple of, I don't know if you're familiar with Verkada, just power over Ethernet cameras. We put 4 of them in overhead. Also another quick solution, probably about 2 months to implement.
What about the picking point?
So for this, we didn't focus on the picking point. We were only focusing on the
You weren't
moment.
concerned they were taking a product out of the box, reclosing the box to put it in a case pack? Because
Say
the
that
box
again.
is in the picture of your pack out, but if the product's been removed from the actual product packaging into your case pack out, you're still getting an image of an item in a box.
So we also implemented like a scale on the pack station as well, so we're collecting actual weight. And we had intended to, I think we had spoken about passing the actual weight into LoadProof as well, so
Correct.
but we ended up passing it into the ASN. So we have the ability to audit actual versus theoretical weight. We haven't really had a need to, but that was we did get that question as well from retailers.
So, the workforce, how did they perceive it? If you're an honest workforce, you probably appreciate it. If people are accusing you of stealing. If you're a dishonest one, then you probably can fight it. But was there any issues with the workforce, or is it just, this is what it is, and making sure that it gets packed right? Any dynamics there?
I mean, it was 4 or 5 people impacted by this process change. So we were really close with them. We brought them in early on. We explained the problem. To be blunt, if any of them were bad actors, we were observing them. We wanted to see if they were going to react. But it was largely met. I think we were benefited by our history with the 3PL as well, because that 29-year history, we had a lot of employees who felt passionately about the brand. So when we brought them into that design phase, and we're like, well, what do you think about, what if we position a scanner here, and we get their feedback in the design process, getting them in as early as possible, kind of brought them along with the journey, and we didn't get much pushback. I think most of the pushback was with the owners, because they were skeptical. There had been a history of, this was a problem that was going on for 5+ years, and there had been a history of finger pointing between like my organization and the 3PL, so we had to get past that. And once we got them, we didn't approach their people until we got them fully on board.
I mean, honest people would probably appreciate proving that they're honest. That's one side of it. So.
And to that as well, like I mentioned, there was a second brand on the other side of that warehouse that was a competitor, and the owners of our 3PL, like they were like very gracious. They were like, do we have your permission to show them to like make this introduction to LoadProof? Like, yeah, sure. Like it's this investigation wouldn't have worked if they were bad actors. They could have said no. Like, as someone who's run buildings in the past, I would sooner, I would share video with a customer any time of day, like whatever you needed. I don't know if I would feel great about you putting your cameras in my facility. And I'm speaking, I was more concerned with Mercado with that, but I mean, the fact that they were willing to do that made this entire thing possible.
Is there any added time on the packing from it, or is it just a QR scan that takes milliseconds?
It's a QR scan, so we kind of based it off of self-checkout. So the pickers were already applying this, the label we added a QR code to off of a head printer. So that was no time added. We just moved where they were adding dunnage, like from a cart to a pack table. And we had it so that they rotate the QR code past a fixed scanner and just hold it open for a couple of seconds. So in aggregate, like I think we time studied it and it was like a couple of labor hours a day during peak. Nothing that required any staffing changes.
Just a question regarding the video itself. So, Puga, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, please.
So the video, is there, do you have things built in to make sure that the video quality is always consistent?
Yes.
So, because you've got kind of like one opportunity. to take
Absolutely.
that-
I think
that video.
the way that we implemented that was obviously, right, it's a packing station, packing table. And then it's a Samsung Tab Active tablet that has a really good resolution, high resolution. And that was mounted and there were markings on the packing table itself. So they were supposed to keep the box, within those marking, and then it would directly focus on that and then it would capture a really good quality video. Yes, and we didn't have there was no pushback from the retailer or anybody saying that, hey, we are not able to watch the video quality is not good, or the clarity is not good enough.
But you also
Yeah.
had another app that you put on the tablets. So there's another app that you put on the tablets that locks the controls.
Correct.
Only managers have access to the code to unlock those tablets.
Correct.
So they'll check the tablets, they'll full cycle reboot them at the start of every shift. They check the queues to make sure that, like, for whatever reason, if Wi-Fi goes out, that we're able to fix it and we're not queuing up too many videos on the device. And they have the ability to lock the tablet so that somebody isn't messing with the view, like the frame or anything, the zoom or anything.
There were some extra, proactively we wanted to, obviously, right? The challenge we had was that with the Wi-Fi network that we were depending on, it was a Verizon data plan that we were depending on, and sometimes, the Wi-Fi network would get clogged up, so the videos won't upload, as quickly as we would like. So it will queue up. So we built a queuing mechanism where we can queue up to like 200 videos. So even if there was a clogged up situation, it can handle up to 200 videos, and then it'll start sending alerts to everyone saying that, hey, there is a problem. Usually that happens when the Wi-Fi network is not working for like more than 4 or 5 hours. So, and usually it goes away, right? That's the challenge with the Wi-Fi network providers. The bandwidth goes up and down because somebody else is doing something, depending on all the other activities the other employees are performing. So that's been there, but as long as once we implemented that queuing mechanism, that solved the problem, right?
And we also had a couple options with Wi-Fi. So that was a major requirement from my partner, was that they didn't want this interfering with their day-to-day operations. So we went with a central 5G Verizon router, and that was dedicated to LoadProof and Verkada. So LoadProof would queue the videos into the cloud during the day, and Verkada was scheduled to back up during off hours. So we're cycling through and managing our bandwidth using the software's out of the box functions. But we also, and we discussed this last week, as a backup. We have 2 or 3 different levels of backup. We have battery backup for the 5G router. The router itself has a battery that comes with it. And we're also talking about just putting a broadband SIM directly into the tablet so that we're not worrying about anything at all.
LTE tablets
Yeah.
basically will directly, will have the data plan access instead of connecting through a router, because the router has that up and down, bandwidth fluctuations, so it can directly push the videos to the cloud through the data plan.
The really cool thing was that we had options, right? It was a conversation the entire time. We were able to configure Wi-Fi to meet our group cybersecurity requirements. We were able to talk about different options of how we're going to get the metadata into LoadProof, into the portal. Do we want the metadata to go back to the WMS, or do we want it to go into the portal? We said portal because maybe one day, we're putting the customer number in there. Maybe one day I want to give Saks Fifth Avenue loss prevention access to this portal so they can look up the stuff themselves. No, we didn't do that. Just kind of ran out of time, and I'm not 100% sure that they would take the time to do that anyway. But we had the option to have these discussions. We went with a QR code. We could have it had built an API from LoadProof into the warehouse management system to get that data. So a lot of different options for configurability that really made it the right solution.
That is an important aspect of the whole system. Whatever videos that you folks want to look up, what is the metadata that you want to look up by, right? It could be a sales order number, it could be a purchase order number, it could be a customer, it could be a carrier ID, it could be anything else. So we got to keep in mind and make sure all those metadata is tagged against the video that's being uploaded. So it's very easy to look up the data using one of those metadata elements, right? That's what makes the search so much easier. So that's one big thing with the LoadProof system. Anytime you're uploading photos, you're uploading videos, all those are tagged with that specific metadata. So that's what makes it easy to retrieve. You're not sitting there and looking photo after photo or video after video. Instead, searching by the metadata that's tagged, against the photos and the videos. Right. That's what makes it super easy to track the data.
So I can imagine that anybody who's shipping high value goods, this would be something that would be highly desirable. I'm sure that's how you feel about it. Are you making inroads with all these people, and how's that going?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think we titled it, only as chargebacks for this presentation. It's really not only chargebacks, it's all kinds of claims. Freight claims, damage claims, shortage claims, all kinds of claims where people did not even get their stuff, broken pallets, missing packing slips, missing documentation, all kinds of scenarios that we are dealing with. And the 3PL business, especially, this is a retail supply to retailer scenario that we are talking, but in the 3PL business, people are using it extensively. We are, when we started, and we are not a, VC funded company or anything. The only thing we have is, we have the software development. We are able to do it at a slightly lower cost because we are an offshore development team, and then we are in Georgia Tech. We are in Atlanta. So with those two things, we have acquired close to 800 sites, 350 plus customers that are using our system now. So that's not bad. We can always do better, do more. We support all kinds of scenarios. People typically start with outbound shipping. That's the most bang for the buck to begin with. And then once they realize, it's so useful in the outbound shipping area, then I want to use it in inbound. I want to use it in, when I do my Gemba work. I want to use it, in quality operation. I want to use it. Some 3PLs have gone, they're tracking it at the, shift level. Hey, first shift, second shift, third shift. We want to use it in all different scenarios, all different, so many. We'll be happy to, do a demo for you guys. And I have a long list of all the different, use cases that they use it for. Yes, we've gotten. We can always do better. We've made, pretty decent inroads in all those different scenarios. We have people using it for quality operation. We have people using it for inbound trailer inspection. I mean, that's a very common thing, and we have using it food. These are the 7-8 verticals that use our system. The first one is 3PL, third party logistics companies. The second one is supply to retailers. The third one is heavy industries, heavy equipment shippers. And the fourth one is food and beverages. Beverage guys love this. I mean, they're like, hey, I got this expensive wine bottle and that gets broken, somebody's got to, pay for it, food and beverage. And then we got a lot of pots, I mean, I just saw the numbers for the last week. Komatsu has uploaded 27,000 photos last week just because they are tracking all these sensitive, parts. Yeah, pots. And then we have general distributors. We got some third-party manufacturers as well. So, and we got some drivers. You won't believe, Samsung, makes delivery of the appliances at the consumer's home, and the consumers, after like a week or so, submit a claim to Samsung saying that, hey, your drivers came to my home and damaged the door. So now the drivers are going for delivery. They take photos of any damages they find, while they're delivering the appliance. So if they get a claim like that, they're able to reject it because, hey, this damage was already there, when we came to deliver the appliances, It's crazy. I mean, this and all we would have never thought of, that these things are happening. I mean, they were able to solve those problems as well. And the biggest, one of the biggest things that we did last year was that, basically, again, this is with Samsung. They have a major problem in the reverse logistics operation. I mean, they're delivering, let's say refrigerators, washers, dryers to these customers' home, and then there was a small dent or scratch or something on that refrigerator, so the customer is rejecting it. So Samsung is, the 3PL is taking it back, but by the time it comes to Samsung's warehouse, when the customer rejected, there was only one dent. But by the time it came back to Samsung, it's like now it's got 5 dents now.
Probably looks like it's been rolled down again because now you're taking out, it's been taken out as protected packaging.
Exactly. So obviously, right? I mean, someone rejected and someone is moving it. The amount of care that went into until the delivery happened was not there. Coming back. So now Samsung is like turned on this system in like 80 plus sites, and they are tracking. They're tracking. And now, I mean, this is the at the most basic sense. This is very simple. It's like, hey, when the quality of the work I do is being monitored, I just do a better job. That's it. And this is a system that you can put in any type of scenario where you can ask them, hey, use this app, capture the photos at the condition when you ship or when you hand off or when you receive or when you drop off at a construction site, whatever it is, just capture a photo and upload to the cloud. When someone, any supply chain operator was asked to do that, they just do a better job because they realize, hey, you know what, my boss or my boss can log into the system anytime and look at the quality of the work I did. It's like a sophisticated oversight that you can provide at the lowest cost possible, and have them do it. They just do a better job. That's it. And you can do it in any point in your supply chain.
So for like retail operations, I have 12 boutiques, and we have audit checklists. We obviously can't be in all boutiques at all times. So we'll take, like, one of the things we're examining is having each site have a LoadProof login. They each have their own site, take pictures of a certain area of the boutique, the stock room, and we can log in and verify that they actually are completing their audits and their tasks. It's not just send me a picture of what you did on your phone, right? Of course you can go in, you can look at the metadata on the image of that somebody sends you from their phone, but you can't really tamper with it. You know that it was done on this device at this time, and you can't forge it. You can't upload a photo off of your phone. It's a solid workflow, and you can't really break your way around it. So it is like really, we keep finding new applications that, and also like from a cost perspective, like within the same cost structure we have for our warehouse, we can also expand within like into a retail operation as well, which is it's like I don't there is no selling point. Like I just tell them that we're doing it. We have this relationship already.
So the biggest difference is, I mean, there is, when you're sharing photos from your smartphone, someone can claim, hey, I don't believe this photo, it could be tampered, or it's, how do I trust this, right? How is it? How do I believe that this is real? Whereas, when it comes from the system, it has the date stamp, time stamp, usage stamp, and also GPS stamp. And we also have this ability, there is something called Lamina that we've implemented. So where people can even draw, markings, put if they want to mark off a dent or something, scratch or something, they can do that, but still it's shown as a separate layer without tampering the original photo that was captured, right? Basically, any photo that is captured and uploaded to the system is a locked record. You can obviously delete that photo as an admin, if you don't want it, but you cannot tamper with the data as such, right? That's what makes it credible. Even in the code of law, you can present it and say, hey, this came from an enterprise system. It's fully, and we are actually getting a SOC 2 type 2 compliance certification as well. That's coming up in the next few weeks. Because some people want to put a driver's license. I mean, that's a PII, personal identifiable information. When someone is when Daikin is shipping a $500,000 HVAC system that's going to this big building where they're installing $100,000 HVAC system, that's a they want to make sure they document the driver that's picking up that load. So driver's license is a sensitive information that goes in the system. Now we got to be SOC 2 type 2 compliant, because that's a personally identifiable information of an individual. So we can handle that as well, in a few weeks. Those are the new requirements that we are being asked to comply with.
I don't know if we've got time for another question or so, but just kind of curious about the collaboration, not only from your facility, and you mentioned collaboration with the retailers coming in, but and you mentioned something about the 3PL, so I think what's left is the transportation part of it. So even though the terms of sale might be either prepaid or collect, I'm just kind of curious what's been your conversations with the transportation providers in terms of, okay, we're creating the perfect order here, transferring it to you, it's now your obligation to get it to the final destination. What's been their response?
So the transportation provider in question that was involved with this issue, we didn't interact directly with them during the investigation, but they were very collaborative with the retailers, and the idea of they weren't the idea of like adding cameras into their vehicles, adding in other sensors to kind of help this investigation and build a more secure supply chain. They were very receptive to that without going into specifics. But I don't feel like they had a lot of choice in the matter necessarily. Once we felt like we achieved our objective, and we were like, this is obviously not happening within our four walls. It was pretty clear that they were going to have to collaborate or risk their business with that retailer.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like it was pretty much there.
There was I didn't have a single conversation with them. I just saw the result, and for a while we changed up carrier. We changed carriers for a while. We brought them back in, and we saw the result in their process and their security measures. So I think we kind of let the retailers drive that.
Thanks.
So in that case, the carriers were hired by the retailers. Is that the case? Okay. That happens a lot. I mean, especially in the retail to supplier supplies to retailer scenario, right? Because they are trying to optimize, their, transportation costs by, planning their dynamic routing and all that, so they can optimally do the pickups. schedule their
There
pickups
was,
and
I
things.
mean, like with this, the one that was most involved, like we did work indirectly, and we asked for like a check, like what are the things you expect us to look at here? Like what are the measures that nobody has, like the carrier doesn't have a measure of all the technology that we put into place. Like by design, right? We don't want anybody to get a full picture of all the security measures that were put in place by different parties. But we were given a couple of things to check on every load. Like a lot of stuff was common sense. Like if it's a straight trailer, no side door, there are two or three security measures that they implemented that we checked for. And if they sent a truck or a trailer that didn't meet all of those criteria, we reject them right off the bat.
Good. Any other questions, folks?
Very interesting.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the story.
Thank you everyone for coming. Hope you guys learned something. Yeah.
Best smelling guy in the room. Wow. What did you see? What's retail like? $500?
Yeah, about, yeah.
Oh my gosh.